Hey everyone, this is Todd, and welcome to the Messaging Matters show. I do believe I'm live. Um, Let me get the comment. If you are joining us and you are in the YouTube chat, to say hey, just so that we know that we're live, because sometimes it's hard to tell in these things. But I am happy to have Sam Grover from New Zealand, a copywriter, conversion copywriter. And Sam, if you wouldn't mind, take a moment just to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Grover. I'm a copywriter, like Todd said. I focus on specifically landing pages and home pages, often for software companies, lots of SaaS companies. And what I do is I really focus on the messaging and positioning side of copywriting. And really, I'm not a big tone of voice guy or a big wordsmith, but rather I focus more on making sure you're talking about the right things that are going to actually be compelling to your audience, and just getting that as clear and straightforward as possible. I work with a lot of SaaS companies, a decent number of professional services companies, and I used to work with quite a lot of financial services companies, but I've kind of moved away from them a bit because they can be hard work.
Yeah, so Sam and I, we've kind of began, I don't know, in the last 6 months or so, chatting pretty regularly on LinkedIn. And I'm like, hey, Sam, you got to check this out. And he's like, well, okay. And we have these really good conversations. And so the other day, a while back, actually, I don't know, I guess I was just frustrated about testimonials. And I said something to him, and I think it resonated. And next thing I know, I'm like, hey, you want to get on Messaging Matters and talk about testimonials and geek out about it? He said, yeah, sure. So a while back, I did a project on a website, working on the page, and the company was a WordPress premium plugin, actually freemium plugin, I guess is what you call it, where they have a free model and then they have the premium model. And they had what a lot of companies do who are in that situation, they get a lot of reviews, testimonials, if you will, reviews in the WordPress repository. And I'm sure it's similar with other SaaS, companies and some of the SaaS review platforms that are out there. I think Sam's going to talk about some of that here in a bit. But so they put a bunch of them on this page and also on another page. And several of them were obviously from the repository, because the name was a username, and in some cases an icon, looked like a robot or something like that. And then sometimes they didn't say much. So they were obviously kind of doing the whole more is better type of thing, and as well. And I don't think it's very helpful to have a testimonial like that, a review like that on a website, where it's like, oh, username 123 and here's my robot icon. Who is that? Why should I listen to them? So I was chatting with Sam about it, and so I'm going to let him take it away, but we're going to talk about, as I say, testimonials, the good, bad, and the ugly. And he's got some examples of all of those, I believe, for us tonight.
Sure. So, yeah, I think about testimonials a lot because they're something that can really make or break a landing page, because they're social proof.
Mm-hmm.
There's somebody like your audience, like the person reading your page, telling you why they use the product and what value they got out of it. So there's two elements to that. One is the testimonials themselves, and that's the quote.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also the sort of the numbers aspect of the social proof, which I think that's like you were saying, Todd, that's where a lot of this can kind of fall over, because you might have 400 people who use your 400,000, who cares, people who use your product. And actually the real value in that is to say 400,000 people use our product. putting 400,000 vague testimonials is not going to achieve that as well as just putting a number, join 400,000 other people. So I think that's where people get a bit unstuck. They think, okay, we need to show that there's lots of people using this product, that lots of people trust it. So let's put lots and lots of testimonials from review sites and stuff like that. But it's actually they're achieving two different things. One is showing that your product's heavily used, and the other is showing specifically why a person like you uses it. So I think that's where a lot of companies make the mistake of, one, the social proof side of just showing a big number, that's quantity and there's value in that. And the other one, the testimonial side, that's more of a quality conversation. So I think you want to make sure that they're both, you have those split out. You say on one part of your page, X number of people use us, and the other part of the page, here's Todd Jones, copywriter, and here's why he uses this. And then put a nice quote, maybe with a picture or something like that.
Because then 400,000 people can't be wrong, right?
Yeah, that's right. And here's one of them, and here's why he loves it. So I think where to go from there.
Let's talk about some of the we talked about the good, bad, and ugly, and the first one that you mentioned in the document is vague testimonials. I love working with X and would recommend it to anyone. So can you tell us why that might not be the best testimonial for a web page?
Yeah, for sure. And I can give an example, and I hope it doesn't bother them. But for months, I was seeing this ad on Twitter for a SaaS company, Chargeify. And it was just a nice picture of one of their customers and a testimonial quote. And the quote was, "I would strongly recommend Chargeify to all growing B2B SaaS businesses." And just every time I saw it, it's like, I thought, all you've told me is that it's good for B2B SaaS businesses, which is, there's some value there, and that you would recommend it. But I don't know who you are. And I don't know why you would recommend it. Mm-hmm. And this ad just came up over and over again. And so it kind of gave me a bit of a brain worm around this. And the more I looked around, I saw this was so common. You would get these testimonial quotes that just say, I use this app and I love it. I use this product and I love it. And you should too. But I think that's not that effective unless you get into the why. And I'm not really sure why companies do this. I think it might be, companies can get really fixated on being very concise. So they might have a longer testimonial quote or a longer conversation with somebody, and they'll just cut it down to as few words as possible. But I think when you do that, you kind of lose something if you cut out too much. And so just to continue on that, like I said, I got a real brain worm around it. And so I started looking around Chargeify's website and actually found a whole page full of testimonial quotes. And let me read you one of them. "A total game changer. We turned a 6-hour weekly reporting project into a 10-second dashboard refresh." That is an awesome testimonial quote, because that is telling people exactly what value they got out of using Chargeify. Turning a 6-hour project, a person's full day of time, into a 10-second dashboard refresh where you just press a button. I mean, that's huge value. So I guess my advice for anyone trying to parse out testimonial quotes would be to try to err on the side of that second one and get into that real specific benefit statement. Because even though it is more words, I mean, I'm not going to count them on a live, but it is a bit longer. But I think it says so much more. And I think it also, the other thing is, someone saying, I recommend this product, unless there's somebody whose recommendation carries weight in and of itself, just because they're an influencer or something like that, so that recommendation doesn't do much,
I was going to say, because I'm thinking about a client's website. She's a cleaner. And so a lot of her testimonials, and this is not just with her, but a lot of local type companies, service-based companies would be like, hey, I recommend her, or she's highly recommended, or whatever. In a certain context, that can have immense value, right? If I'm somebody that you know really well and you trust really well, then I could say, use Tennessee Trending Cleaning Services. I highly recommend them. That can have a huge benefit. So I think, in some cases it could be fine. Now, when I think about benefit, right, that's always we talked about, us copywriters like to talk about unique, in marketers, unique value proposition, unique sales proposition, all this kind of stuff. And of course, when you say that to the average business owner, most of them, their eyes glaze over. And rightly so, right? They don't know the terminology. But one thing that helped me a lot was Talia Wolf, conversion rate optimization queen, I call her, talked about desired outcome. She replaced benefit with desired outcome. Fantastic phrase. And I've started calling unique value benefits or propositions or whatever something different to my customers as much as I can. Whether it's a benefit statement or something, but I think I kind of got away from what you were talking about. Yeah, having a benefit in the testimonial kind of lifts the vagueness, but I think you're right. In some circumstances, saying I highly recommend something is immensely beneficial, but certainly in some of the people we work with, maybe not as much as maybe for my friend Crystal. So.
Yeah, and I think it's going to come down also to who's doing the recommending. So if it's someone who your target customer can relate to, or someone whose name they recognize, if one of my friends said, I highly recommend this cleaner, I wouldn't say, can you be more specific? I would say, oh, great, you're my friend. I know, like, and trust you.
Exactly.
But I think that when and I might be making a mistake about when I'm looking at the Chargify ad, maybe the person who they're quoting is that person to their target audience, but I just don't know that. And I'm really adding myself.
It does come down to Mark, who's on the live. I think he's still on the live. He actually has one of these WordPress premium products. And if you go to his website, some of the testimonials right up front and center are well-known influencers in the WordPress space. So that's a good example of using somebody that's well-known.
It's actually a good segue into one of the other, just another good example that I came across, which is the time tracking website, time tracking product Toggle has on their website a testimonial quote from the tennis player Serena Williams. And I find that kind of fascinating because Toggle's people who buy Toggle are not professional tennis players. It's great to have a recognizable name out there, but I do wonder how much a potential Toggle customer is going to get value out of that testimonial quote, even if they recognize the name Serena Williams.
I want to know more behind that. Like, is Serena using the product, and how is she using the product? It might be a very good story, actually, but
there actually is, because I mentioned it on Twitter, and I think Toggle must have been name searching because they replied to me and sent me a link to a Fast Company article that was all about how she uses Toggle, and it was interesting. She uses it to track. She's a high performance athlete, so she uses it to track essentially her every move, and keeps track of how much time she's spending with her family, making sure she's doing this, that, and the other. It was an interesting article, and I think it probably has good PR value. I just wondered, I think with, like you said before about WordPress influencers and a recognizable name, I think that the recognizable name is one thing, but it also needs to be recognizable and have credibility in the space that your customers are in.
That sounds like something for that sounds like something you'd use for like a case study about somebody outside what you would normally think uses Toggle, who uses it, like a use case type study. Okay, here we have a high performance professional athlete using Toggle, and this is how she does it. That'd be a very interesting read, and maybe they are trying to move into more of the lifestyle arena. That's interesting too.
Yeah, they might be. Yeah, I do. I think it is. That's a really useful caveat for all these kind of things. It's so easy to look at something and say, that's that's wrong, but I don't know their strategy. I don't know what they're trying to do. But just at first glance, I thought, it's interesting. And I think you're right that, especially from a sort of PR point of view, if you can get a case study about a highly recognizable person using your product, it's going to be easier to get that into the press. And that's exactly what they did. They got into Fast Company, and I'm sure they got a lot of brand uplift from that. But I do wonder how much that's going to actually work for conversion down the pointy end of the funnel.
Unless they're tracking it and they report back to us, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, Toggle, feel free to
give me a call. Let me know what's going on
there. And maybe put us in touch with Serena. Maybe we put her on the Messily Matter show, and
she can go to the next episode.
Anyway. So, I've already got one famous person on, Sam Grover. So
of course, hard to beat that.
Yeah, I have a couple lined up for the next 2 months, and I'll remind me to talk about that as we finish up. But go ahead with the rest of the. That's
sure.
An interesting one.
One big one that applies to testimonials and also case studies actually is, well, if we go a step back, when you get a testimonial, you're going to have a conversation with a customer and ask, and either whether it's through email or on the phone or whatever. And what a lot of companies do is they have their sort of favorite customers, the ones who they're usually early customers. They love everything the company does. So those are really, it seems fairly obvious that those would be the ones you use for a case study or a testimonial, because they're going to be open to it. They're going to be willing to spend the time. And it's a good strategy. But the downside is that you can get kind of caught up in this love fest where you have someone who loves your product and uses it every day and can't get enough of it, and you say, why do you use our product that you love so much? And they'll actually, because it's such an ingrained part of their life and because they are so keen on it, the testimonial quote actually won't be that good without digging in a bit, because they'll say something like, oh, I just couldn't live without it. I use it every day and I couldn't imagine life without it. Things, I can't get enough of it. I can't wait for the next release. I go to every webinar. It's a love fest. And when you're on the phone with someone like that, it's actually so easy, well, for me at least, to get completely caught up in it. Be like, oh, I'm so glad you love it. Tell me more. And and they're going on. And then you hang up the phone and you realize I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
All I got was the fact that this person loves our product. So what you need to do is go that next step deeper and just ask why over and over again. Why do you love it? You use it every day. Why do you use it every day, not something else? What were you using before to solve this problem? What did your life look like before, day to day, and what does it look like now? All these sort of deeper questions that are going to unearth the real meaty testimonial quotes. And I might be highlighting my own weaknesses in that I have to work really hard to do that, especially when I'm on the phone with somebody who's super enthusiastic and super committed to the thing that I'm writing about. It's easy to think the conversation is going so well because everyone's so happy, but you have to think that level deeper of like, okay, what information do I want from this? And am I getting it? Because otherwise you're going to walk away with just a really enthusiastic quote, but not one that gets anyone over the line.
Yeah, I think, and anybody who's in the SaaS space may follow Case Study Buddy with our friend Joel Klecke. And, he has said in some of this content that, hey, look, do one of our case studies, and it will actually yield lots of benefits for you, including testimonials, maybe a weightier testimonial, if you will. So I would think, maybe with a super fan like that, just to keep from getting caught up into that vortex of happiness, maybe if you have the budget to allow somebody like, Joel's company to do a case study and turn it into something more. I like to call them success stories, customer success stories, because case study the connotation of case studies for me is like endless amounts of data with no context, but you get somebody like Joel's company where his interviewers are skilled in doing this. You could come up with more than a case study. You can come up with various snippets, various micro content out of that. So, I think something like when you have a super duper fan, maybe that might be a better option. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think whether you're hiring them to do it or doing it yourself, I think if you've got someone on the phone to talk about your product and how much they love it, you may as well go a couple levels beyond just the testimonial quote anyway, because it's kind of a fixed time cost of having a conversation with them either way. So you're spending that time. So you may as well create some more content beyond just the testimonial.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you want to add something else?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say that it's actually a good way to think of it. Rather than say we need to get some testimonials for our website, say we want to get some case studies for our marketing material in general, and then from those case studies we'll pull some testimonials.
Yeah.
Because it's not a huge amount. I mean, you do have to write the whole thing, but you're still doing the same interview. You're still doing the coordinating and all that stuff. So you may as well get as much out of it as you can. And if you don't have time, definitely hire a case study buddy. I used to do them, but now I just refer everyone to Joel.
Yeah, especially in the SaaS space, that's what they really major on. So getting testimonials, and that can be a challenge in and of itself. I mean, maybe a service like a cleaning company, we send a link to Google reviews, right, to the customer. The customer goes and leaves a review. That's understandable, makes sense. But when you're maybe doing a B2B company and you need a more of a testimonial, what are some tricks? I almost say tricks. What are some ways that you can get testimonials from those super fans?
Yeah, I mean, I think the because you don't need heaps and heaps of them, I think the key is to have conversations with them. And like we talked about before, you can do a case study, but even outside of that, just do customer research conversations. And probably don't treat it as to an extent, don't treat it as a testimonial mining exercise, but rather treat it as an information gathering exercise, which you're probably going to be doing for your, if you're putting together a new landing page or homepage, you're almost certainly going to be doing that anyway. So I think just get some customers on the phone and record the conversation and just really do that stuff I was talking about before of diving into the problems they had and how they solved them and things like that. And if you just have these sort of organic conversations, the testimonial quotes will bubble up from that. The key is making sure you're asking the right questions to get good detailed information, but it's a balancing act too, because it's very obvious when someone is just having a conversation trying to get a testimonial quote, so treat it more as I'm trying to get good information from you about whether it's good or bad, and whether it's positive or negative about our product, and as a byproduct of that conversation, I might get some good testimonials. But I think you just have to have your head on a bit of a swivel for them, and also be making sure you're asking good, direct, specific questions.
Yeah, I think sometimes you ask us question and people tend to give short one-line answers and not know, and maybe they're searching for words. And one thing I've decided that may make things a little bit easier, and I pitched this to my persona friend, and she thought it was a good idea as well. At least she acted like she did. Tell me the story of why you needed to use our product. What was going on? When you throw the word story in there, people quit worrying about the words they're trying to choose. Oh, we're trying to say something professional. We're trying to say something marketing like. They just launch into the story. And when you do that, it all comes out. And you got that. So if you give them permission to tell the story, I think
Mm.
they will give you more than maybe they would, because I think we tend to be on alert whenever, oh, well, Sam wants to hear some kind of, cool answer in one line or less.
Mm.
No, Sam wants to hear the story.
Yeah, that's right.
We need the story, because
Mm.
anyway, that's just something I've thought of in the last few months, and for customer research in general, but certainly for, I think in this context would work as well. Maybe.
Mm. Yeah, a big one I ask is, I think that story angle is a really smart one. I think a big one I often ask is, tell me what was happening in your business. But I think adding that
Mm-hmm.
word story really,
Mm-hmm.
really helps to frame what you're looking
It
for.
gives the permission to say everything.
Yeah,
It was a
that's
warm
right.
day. The bird was chirping in the
Yeah,
backyard. I want to hear it.
yeah. Because it
Let's
doesn't need
set
to be,
the
even if you're going to end up with one line, it doesn't need to be one line of content from them. It's your job to pare that back.
Exactly. You take all the words and you pull out, what was needed. But
Mm.
sometimes to get to that line, you have to give them permission to tell it all.
Yeah,
Because
that's
if
right.
they're trying to come up with that line, then they'll inevitably box themselves in and not give you what you want. So if you use that word story, another way to use storytelling in your business, brought
Mm.
to you by Todd. Anyway, it's, but really, it's just like you're sitting around, how you have a family dinner at the holidays, and you remember that time when we were in ninth grade and we played sweatband ball. A game my brother and I invented in the summers, the past summers in northern Arkansas. Sweatband
Mm.
ball. We took, this is a real deal, right? 2 sweatbands and kind of rolled them up into a ball, and we used a tennis racket for a bat, and yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we tell all these stories, and I think if you
Mm.
give permission to tell a story, they'll tell it all, and you'll
Mm.
find your golden nugget in there. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like doing a podcast, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And, well, it makes me think of another thing that took me a long time to learn was give people, when you're on a conversation, a case study or testimonial conversation with somebody, or just customer research, be very cognizant of the fact that it takes time to get comfortable. I've found in many conversations that, I'll schedule 30 minutes, and then if I've made the mistake of just launching into
Mm-hmm.
my sort of in-depth questions, and it actually takes 20 of those 30 minutes for people to get comfortable with me and happy to actually start talking. So I think just really working on that sort of rapport building, and don't be afraid to make a little bit of small talk and stuff like that, and that's when and that's when you'll start to get good information, because if people aren't comfortable talking to you, that's when you get those, you get lots of sort of chair wiggling and one word answers and nervousness, and you're not going to get anything good. You need to let people sort of get comfortable, and then they'll start giving you the best.
So let me go ahead and ask you this, since you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of things do you recommend? What do you do to help people get comfortable with you in that 20 minutes? I feel like we're just now getting comfortable with each other in this conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's I just really, because I can be very sort of goal oriented, in that, like, I've got my 30 minutes, I need this information right now, go. So I really have to work on myself to, don't be afraid to just chat for a few minutes, how many kids you got, all that kind of stuff, spend some time doing that. Don't feel like you need to, I'm also very conscious of, like, oh, they've given me this time, I need to make sure I'm not wasting their time, but there's a bit of give and take there, just being conscious of that, that you can, ask people a question that's not directly related to what you're talking about on the call. Just basic, how's your day going type stuff. Really, just, it's funny, like the kind of stuff that I would do without even thinking about it, if I was meeting someone for a coffee or having a beer with them, even if it was with a work outcome in mind, but that I have to really, really work hard to make sure I do when I'm on a Zoom call. It's just something funny about the medium makes it for me makes it harder. So I guess, yeah, my answer is just do some small talk about some stuff that's not related to the underlying goal, and keep an eye on people's body language. It'll tell you a lot. Like I said before about turning in the chair. If people are swiveling around in their chair, don't get into your goal-oriented questions yet. Talk about something else for a little while, just until they're a little bit more laid back and ready.
When I used to do the Copy Chat show, which is kind of the precursor to Messaging Matters, if you go back and look at some of those, I don't know if you have or not, but they're on the same channel. And I didn't decide to do it this time with Messaging Matters, but I might reinstitute some. But I would do what I called Getting to Know You section. I'd call it a lightning round, like 10 questions, and sometimes I'd switch them up. And they were, like, if you were a superhero, who would you be? What is your favorite dessert? Just little questions like that, which everybody has some kind of opinion on, right? Cookies or cake? What you like? Favorite musician? Whatever. And actually, Mark and I have been talking about Bruce Hornsby a lot on Facebook. So, but when it just kind of helps open up a little bit, right? Without being too inherently personal. Maybe even better than how many kids you have, unless they bring that up. Then they bring that up. Well, tell me about your kids. What are their names? But
I wouldn't ask them right off the bat, that's for sure.
No, yeah. So you got to be careful. So these are kind of questions that are like non-intimidating, but at the same time helps them tell you a little bit about themselves, right? And I guess maybe if you go into one of those meetings with 3, I always like 3 because it's memorable. So 3 questions that you can base that part of the conversation on. You can mix it up or use the same ones. You might take stock of who the person is. There may be something about them that like based on who they are. Like if I was chatting with Mark, we'd probably start with Bruce Hornsby and the Reigns, just because I know that about him. If you can say, if I met with you, it might be, okay, so what's the latest in copywriting news, or something like that. So you can tailor that to the person. You can do that on the fly just by observation, right? If you can tell somebody is into something right off the bat. So you can, that helps kind of open the conversation, open the between you and the person up. And but I think the big part, obviously we're going to get the review type testimonials, right? The ones that are going to be vague and maybe not as good, so forth. And they're going to live, a lot of those are going to live on G2, they're going to live on Facebook, and they're going to live on Google business profile, and that's fine. We still need those, right? But the ones that you're putting on the website or on the main page, maybe that, unless they hand you one, right? I've had a couple people write me off a really stellar testimony. I'm like, I can't wait to put that on my website. But maybe it would be a Zoom chat or an in-person chat. The reason I like a Zoom or a Google chat is you can actually hit record. If you can't remember what they say, you can hit record. You can transcribe it, pull it up. You mentioned in the notes something about possibly writing out a testimonial and then having to prove it. I've heard of people doing that as well. Have you tried that before?
I've begrudgingly once and before I was on my own in a full-time job. I do not. I'm not a fan. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I think
there's certain times that it can be beneficial. Maybe the person, they trust you immensely and they don't feel like they're a very good communicator. And you kind of know enough about them to know kind of like what they would say and what the results were. If you could put that together and get their approval, I think it's a win-win. That's not something, I'm with you. I wouldn't want to do that with, a large percentage of my testimonials. But if you have a customer who maybe it's time constraint, Maybe they don't feel like they're the best communicator. Heck, that's why they hired you in the first place, right? If you're a copywriter or a content marketer, and you can put that together and kind of make it sound a little bit like them, and then get their approval. I don't know whether you should like disclose that or not. I'm not advanced enough to know if that's something you should disclose, but I mean, it's not something I would do with most people, but I think there are probably some people that it would be beneficial for.
Yeah, you got me thinking about it a little more deeply now, and I think I probably
that's what I do.
I probably would do it in my own business, because I have a number of clients who I know really well, and I'd be happy to. I'm sure I could write something that they'd be happy to sign off on. I think it'd be pretty. It would be a pretty good testimonial because I'm so ingrained in their business and what they like about working with me. I guess I was thinking more of like a larger scale, like a software business or something like that, where what I've seen happen is the marketing team needs some testimonials, can't get any, so they just they don't have time to have a conversation, so they just write something down that's essentially their marketing messages with little quote marks around them, and those I don't think are that effective.
It seems to me like
literally better than nothing. So
when you're talking about a B2B software company, and if they have a marketing team, that probably means they have a sales team, and they probably have support staff. It seems to me like the people who would be best at getting those would be someone from the support or the sales staff. Because they do know they're the ones who built the rapport, right? Not so much the marketing company. So, I mean, possibly that would be an option to help people, to help pull in testimonials. I don't know. The sales and support people may be mad at me now for adding something else to their plate, but
yeah. But I mean, I agree. I often tell marketers to they should be spending more time talking to salespeople because they, at the very bare, if they just don't have time to get you some testimonials, they can point you in the right direction. You can say, I need to talk to some customers about this, that, and the other problem in these verticals for this campaign I'm doing. They can for sure put you in touch with 4 or 5 people, and that's and that's just the bare minimum they can.
And they could probably introduce you to them and get you,
right.
on the same page with them. So that's an option as well, for sure.
Yeah, but because the other thing is that if you are truly under the pump and you've got to get something out there, and you just for whatever reason you simply don't have the time to talk to someone to get a proper testimonial. Writing your own and getting someone to approve it is better than no testimonial at all, I reckon.
I would say go back and look through some of the reviews that are on those platforms, because you will be amazed. There will be some good reviews in there. And, you may find one and go, that totally ticks all the boxes that we're, trying to check off. And you didn't have to go ask them for it. They already gave it to you. So
sure.
If you're a company that's got a lot of reviews on, one of the software review sites or Google business or Facebook or LinkedIn even, that would be a good place to start, because you might find something that's just stellar because, so that would also be a way to go as well. So
definitely.
Anything else we should know about testimonials before we wrap this up?
Not really. This the big thing is really about specificity. I think
specificity.
Really getting as specific as possible. You gave an example earlier of a cleaning company, and I've been thinking about that, and that like a really good testimonial for a cleaning company, I reckon, would be something like they've showed up on time every week I've had them for 3 years and I haven't had to give them feedback once.
Yeah.
I've been working with them for 6 months and they've been on time every time.
One thing I've learned working with that particular customer is you would be amazed how how it really is a emotional connection
Mm.
with
Within
that
your
particular
space, right?
service. Because we think in terms of solutions and all this kind of stuff, and okay, but it's very, I mean, how it makes them feel, how it makes the customer
Mm.
feel when the
Mm.
customer comes home. And a lot of people are workers. They're already working, right?
Mm.
And they come home after a hard day's work, maybe them and their spouse both, and they don't have the energy,
Mm.
the want to. They got to do something with the kids, and
Mm.
the house needs to be clean. They come home and the house is clean.
Mm.
It's immediate tranquility.
Oh, for sure.
You have, and for those people, the money they pay them is
Mm.
definitely worth it. So I
Mm.
think a lot of we sometimes, especially in the marketing world, want to put numbers on everything, but
Mm.
reality is a lot of times it's mostly how you make somebody feel.
Mm. Definitely.
A lot of us marketers don't want to, you know, especially in the data world, we want to put numbers behind it. But
Mm.
my friend Brittany had a real good quote on LinkedIn today, and I don't have it in front of me, so I can't quote it. But
Mm.
it's basically, sometimes it's not the numbers that count. You know,
Mm.
it's what counts. And
Yeah, for sure.
so and she talks about super fans all the time. It was a very
Mm.
good quote. I need to go back and find that and send it to you, but it's a fantastic quote. But often, really, I mean, yeah, that particular, that testimonial about the ladies, all we have to do now is a report that took 10 hours. We just refresh the screen
Mm.
in a few seconds. And well, how does that make them feel? I would
Mm.
like to go a little bit further. How does that make you feel
Mm.
that you don't have to spend 10 hours, doing this report, because all you have to do is refresh the dashboard. I mean,
Mm.
I know how that makes you and me feel, but how does that make them feel? I would want to know that. So,
For sure. Well, that makes me think of another example I pulled up actually, where this company called Built for Teams. They do some sort of HR or something or the other. And on there, I was just looking for testimonials. wasn't reading what they actually do. But anyway, one of their testimonials says, "Built for Teams makes us more efficient with better processes," that's fine. And then it says, "So we're not spinning our wheels with 9 different spreadsheets." And I thought that spinning our wheels line was just perfect. I mean, the 9 different spreadsheets is really cool in that it talks about the before state. But I think that idea of spinning your wheels is this real this evocative, emotional phrase about how bad things were before. And I think stuff like that is what really, like, what I love about this testimonial is that, like, has 3 different sections, and it's kind of going from okay to good to great. More efficient, better processes. That's okay. Not using 9 different spreadsheets. That's much better because it's specific. And then we're not spinning our wheels. That's what takes it to that top level of testimonial quotes, because it's
you're
doing
working
this
really
for
hard
people.
and not going anywhere. That's what spinning
That's
wheels.
right.
It's
Yeah.
frustration.
Yeah.
I'm a hamster in a hamster wheel. I'm doing all
Mm.
this
That's
work,
right.
but I'm not going anywhere. So you're right. It's very evocative. It's very evocative, and you can feel what they're
Mm.
feeling with what they say. So
Mm.
yeah, I think that's a good, connecting the outcome to how it makes someone feel. That is a
Mm.
pretty provocative. I wasn't provocative. That's a pretty profound way of putting it, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's what's going to take a testimonial and put it into that top echelon of testimonial quotes that really connect with people. That kind of.
Dang, you could
Yeah.
put that on a unique value proposition too on a homepage, but
Mm.
that's for another story.
For sure.
I know
Yeah,
a few copywriters that would probably take that and turn it into a value prop.
yeah,
So,
I would just I would copy paste that, put it on the
yeah,
homepage headline,
we're
call it a
not
day.
spinning our
Stop spinning your
wheels.
wheels.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thanks for coming on today, Sam. Real quick before we let you go, tell us where we can find you online.
Mm. Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I post the most copywriting related stuff. Very active over there. You can also go to my website, which is my name, samgrover.co.nz, and subscribe to my weekly newsletter, which every Monday I send out a copywriting tip, an example of something. This built for teams thing I was just talking about is going to go in a future one, and then just a stray thought around business or copywriting or something like that. Just about to tick over 400 subscribers, so you sign up and you'll get one every week. I'm really trying to grow it, so if you do one thing, go do that.
Yeah, and share it with your friends in the SaaS business.
Yeah,
right. Share that email link with your friends in the SaaS business. Yeah, Sam's very active on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. You're just Sam Grover on Twitter, right? Just
Sam B. Grover. There is a Sam Grover, and that's someone else. He's constantly getting tagged in stuff that's meant for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's really good about replying. So, if you have a question for him, copywriting related, just shoot him a message in LinkedIn or Twitter, and I'm sure he'll get back to you. So,
yeah, love to hear from people.
Yep. Very good. Thanks for coming on, Sam. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.